Right guys, welcome back to episode 3 of the JL Resilience podcast. This week I'm delighted to announce a special guest of mine because not only is he a good friend, he's a director also in JL Resilience. He's come on board with the company and he's given it his full backing, which I think is absolutely fantastic. So today we've got League One footballer, James Belshaw, Bristol Rovers #1. Pleasure to have you here, mate.
Good introduction that, Joe. Cheers, mate. No, delighted to be here, delighted to catch up, so yeah, all good.
Yeah, like I said before on the podcast, I probably will get a little bit better as they go along, or a little bit worse. I think the first one I was a bit stuttering and then the second one got a little bit better, but yeah, I think I'm finally getting there with it now.
No, it's definitely a career there for you, Joe. Yeah, 100%.
So, like we've done on the previous ones and like we've said to the public that are watching, they'll all be a bit different. Everyone's stories are a little bit different, everyone's careers are a bit different. Some have had more longevity than others, but I think it's important that everyone gets to tell their story, everyone gets to listen to it, and if you can take bits from it, that's great. If you don't, then that's fine as well. But I think James has had a great career to date. He's still playing League One at a very high level, but it's not come without its ups and downs along the way. So, like I say, I think it's a good story for people to share with, and I hope you enjoy it. So, what we've done with the other ones, James, is we'll get straight into things. So we'll go from a career. Started at Notts County Academy.
Yeah, started at Notts County Academy. I was a youngster, like any kid, getting into football at an early age, and then was scouted by Notts County when I was sort of 7-8 years old.
From Nottingham.
From Nottingham. Yeah, I was playing for my local club, Clifton All Whites, and then I got scouted for Notts County and was there from a young age. So I had the upbringing through the academy system. A lot of my friends at school were kind of obviously in the grassroots system, so being part of the academy system, you were kind of like isolated a little bit amongst your friends because you're different straight away. But you are getting obviously a better standard of coaching, and you've got that you're on that sort of pathway to being a professional footballer. But no, I love my time there.
Your dad's a massive fan. You're a massive fan.
Yeah. You Pies, yeah, Notts County, all Notts County fans. So yeah, hopefully, I mean, it's kind of digression a bit, but hopefully they can sort of get back out the National League. It's a massive club to sort of be at that level. But yeah, love my time there.
So you went all the way from being a youngster to 15, 16?
Yeah. So when I was 15, it was about 2005. Vividly remember, got back from school one day, and me and my younger brother was in the academy as well, and we just had a letter, and Dad just sort of said, open this letter, and it said that Notts County had decided to shut their academy down for financial reasons. I don't know the full sort of backing sort of story behind it, but I think there were about 50-60 grand short that they needed to run the academy, and it was sort of they needed to invest that in the first team. So yeah, shut down the academy, and at that point as a kid it's crushing really. You sort of go, you're on this pathway, I was close to sort of being 16, like youth team sort of level, and it's just sort of taken away from you, and you think, well, this is what I'm used to, this is kind of my life really, and it's just for reasons that are out of your control. It kind of...
Yeah, I suppose in that sense it's more difficult than probably getting a no, because you've not really done anything wrong. You've come home from school one day, you're probably expecting to go training the night after or that night, and the academy's shut.
Yeah, exactly that, Joe. It's when things are out of your control, we as human beings, we kind of find it hard to sort of comprehend, because we like to think, oh, we're in control of everything, we're in control of our destiny. But as you'll find in football, and sort of through my story and your story and thousands of kids' stories, it's factors that are out of your control that sort of determine the success of your career. And at that point, as a 15-year-old kid, it's sort of hard to sort of comprehend. You're not fully mature yet. There's a lot of emotions, and yeah, it was a difficult time. And I sort of was offered trials at sort of Forest and Leicester and other local teams. But at that sort of time, it was a sort of a period when goalkeepers, you wanted a 6'4" goalkeeper who would come and just catch crosses, and that kind of style is what they look for. And it was offered trials, but sort of took one look at me and said, no, it's too small.
And then from there, so you've gone from Notts County, trials haven't worked out. Where's next?
So
sixth form.
Yeah, so I stayed at sixth form, went through, did my GCSEs, was at sixth form, and just sort of dropped into playing local men's football, sort of literally Sunday morning stuff.
Yeah.
Turning up Saturday, Sundays, playing. I remember I was playing for a local team's reserve side, so I don't know what step that is, and I was coming on for 5 minutes outfield at the end of games, and to go from sort of playing at academy levels, like a decent sort of prospect, to then coming on left wing back or wherever for a local sort of reserve side was sort of tough to take. But
if you put that into context with the modern day football now, there's 17s, 19s, 21s, 23s, reserves, second team, first team, B teams, whatever it is. For a 16-year-old lad to find himself in probably step 7, step 8, you know, I bet you saw a lot, bet you heard a lot, bet you know. It
was, to be honest, Joe, excuse me, those couple of years were very sort of eye-opening. You know, you go from the sort of premise of academy football where you're spoken to in a certain way, you're instructed to play in a certain way, the kind of the goals of the team it's all about personal development, it's not about
praise
and constant sort of reassurance, and then you go into a changing room with blokes who are working on building sites, and I heard language that I'd never heard before in my life, but you go in but it gives you that kind of rounded sort of upbringing, and I like to think those it's probably like 18 months to 2 years kind of sort of helped shape me and kind of gave me that bit of an edge, or that bit of a see like the other side of football before. And then I remember it was October half term, and I was in sixth form, like my second year, and I got a phone call, and just a bloke who'd watched me play was like, I think you've been doing really well. I was playing back in goal at this point, was sort of playing regularly, and sort of said, look, Walsall are interested in you, and I was just like, come on mate, like, I think in that kind of 18 months I'd sort of put sort of energies back into kind of like my schoolwork and sort of focused on that, and thought, okay, football's not going to be the career. I knew I had potential, but kind of almost like accepted that I might be able to nick a few quid here and there playing sort of semi-pro football, and got this phone call and was just like, yeah mate, alright, like, you hear it all before, you'll have heard it thousands of times in your career where people say, oh, so-and-so's interested, but then I got a phone call from the head of academy at Walsall saying that we've had your name put forward, would you like to come in for a trial? And it was kind of, how do I balance this, because I was still at sixth form. I didn't want to throw my education away. I wanted to go through sixth form, get my A levels behind me, but they went in for a trial and they wanted to sign me, so it was like, okay, difficult, sort of how do I balance this? And so I sort of said to them, look, like, I'm not prepared to throw my A levels away, but I do want to sort of pursue this. So we sort of came to kind of an agreement where I'd play for the youth team on a Saturday, wouldn't really train during the week at the start, but then I started to get involved with the reserves, started to get involved with the first team, was on the bench for the first team, and at that point it was like, okay, we sort of need you in here. And I remember having chats with the manager at the time, sort of saying, look, you've got a lot of potential, and this is 3 months before I was playing in front of the Dog and Duck, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, like, this is a real sort of chance here. So my teachers at school were great. I'd go live in digs and they'd just email me the work, and they just said, look, as long as you keep your grades up, if there's anything you need, you can always email us and stuff. So
from going from pretty much grassroots, back in on benches for first teams, etc., didn't work out in the end?
No, so I was there for that season and had a lot of praise, and got to the end of the season and they already had 2 keepers. They said, look, we could sort of create a role as a third choice. Said we've not got a lot of money. I'd basically been on the same sort of money as I was on as a youth team player. Said, look, we can give you another year, but it was, you could sort of tell that it wasn't really going to
happen.
Like a
soft little...
Yeah, it was sort of like, let's kind of just park it really. So then again, you're 18, you think, right, okay, football's going to be...
Lucky you got the education back up though.
Yeah, and I think having the education and going through sixth form almost like took away the jeopardy of football, if that makes sense, because a lot of players sort of go up through the academy system and it's almost football or nothing, and I think I was in a fortunate enough position where my grades are pretty good. I sort of had sort of prospects outside of football, so it almost took off a bit of pressure, I think, so I could kind of relax with football, and I guess that might have been why I kind of did alright with it. But I had this
and that the grades will have played a massive part in your next step from England to... I went across to the States. I had a fantastic offer from Duke University in North Carolina. So I can remember getting a phone call from the soccer sort of coach there, and sort of saying, look, we've been your name's been sort of put forward, like, how would you consider coming out here, what's your sort of viewpoint? And I, like most sort of kids in football, didn't really know much about the collegiate system out there, but once I started to research it, it was, it's a fantastic school. It's
really sort of
Ridiculous
highly thought of. Facilities fantastic, academics, athletics, really, really good. And yeah, so as an 18-year-old kid, I'd never been to the States before. So I remember mum and dad taking me to Heathrow Airport, and that was it, off you go. And she's sort of thrown in at the deep end, really, to kind of build a life out there and move away from home. And
no, definitely. So you've got 18-year-old, let's just take it back from the rejection at 15. You've gone back into grassroots football as a reserve team. You've seen weird and wonderful things for 2 years. You've kept your academics on track. You've got yourself back in by working hard to a football league club. Again, another bit of rejection where it's not for us. But still managed to find yourself in a position where I'm guessing if you ask 99% of the population whether they want to go to Duke University for 4 years and do a masters and all that and play to the level that you did, most would say yeah. A really successful time for you that led you to, was it the MLS drafts that you went and got picked in?
Yeah, so I was there for 4 years, but I still had a bit of jeopardy with it, because the first year, so the way it works in America, you obviously get scholarships because it's like $75,000 a year to go there. So no one's, certainly haven't got that sort of money lying around. So they said, look, we'll give you full scholarship for the first year, everything paid for, accommodation, food, books, tuition, everything. But if you don't come in and become our number one keeper, then we're not going to get it the second year, because they only get a certain number of scholarships to give out.
Yeah, and international ones as well, don't they? They only have so many.
Only have so many slots and stuff. So there was a bit of pressure, and when I went out, I said, look, am I going to get a chance? They gave me a chance, and because the freshmen first years don't usually play, got my chance and played and had a really successful 4 years, which, like you said, they're culminated in the MLS draft. So for those who don't know, the way the MLS system works is at the end of your 3 or 4 years of college, they have a draft. So it's all about kind of trying to balance the league out. So team that finishes bottom gets the first pick, and vice versa. They work through. So went to they have it's called a combine, but it's like a training camp in Florida in the January, and all the coaches are there. They're watching everyone, and I was remember reading all the stuff. You tipped as like the best goalkeeper available and all of that. But like you referred to with the international slots, clubs can only have so many international slots, and as a keeper, you're probably going to go in as second or third choice. So are they really going to want to use an international slot on a keeper? But I remember I was back at my university and just watching the draft online, and then just come up saying that with the 49th pick, Chicago Fire select James Belshaw, and just like, oh, I'm going to Chicago then. So phone call 5 minutes later, hi, it's so and so, I can't remember the guy's name from Chicago Fire, Director of Operations, you're on a flight at 6 in the morning to our training camp, looking forward to meeting you. And then bam, you go and went straight into training camp with Chicago Fire, because even though they draft you, they don't have to offer you a contract. They just get like first refusal on you, so they have the rights to you basically. And did pre-season with them for a couple of months. There was 3 other keepers, so they had 2 keepers signed. There was me and 3 other keepers on trial for this one slot, and we did a training camp. The first one was in Florida. They got rid of one of the keepers. Second one was LA, got rid of one of the keepers. Third one was me and this other keeper left, South Carolina. Then they came to me and said, look, we want to offer you a deal. So it was a 3-year deal, which was a minimum sort of salary in the MLS, and they said, here's the deal, we need to know within 24 hours. So I'm 22 at the time, and you just think, right, I've got 24 hours to decide, do I want a life in America, do I want a life back home in England? And that was tough. And again, you want to speak to people for advice, but I didn't really want to speak to family and stuff, because family would kind of have that pull to kind of come home. So
very family oriented.
Yeah, really close with my brother and mum and dad and family, and it was just like, well, how do you kind of compute this as a 22-year-old? I've been in the States for 4 years. I had spoken to Walsall, and Walsall said, look, come back in, we'll have a look at you till the end of the season. That's what they'd sort of promised. And I think what did it, Joe, I was looking at rent on apartments in Chicago. I'm thinking, that's more than I'm getting paid a month.
Yeah.
Like, it just physically couldn't do it. And I think at that time I thought, you know what, I want to try and give it a go back home. I want to try and build a career in England. I've been in the States for 4 years. I got 2 degrees, so I got my degrees behind me. So I was sort of settled in that kind of sense, and made the decision. Yeah, come home. So the next day I was on a flight back home to England.
So you come back to England. Obviously you're used to this kind of, again, for the people that don't know the full America system, you track like a king. You've got the best facilities about. You're playing in some fantastic venues. You come back to England, you try and make a crack of it in here. The facilities, especially at the lower levels of the English football pyramid, aren't as nice as the ones in America.
Yeah.
So you come back, your career kind of went into Nuneaton, Tamworth. Anything stand out from those times? Obviously I know that, well, South Carolina or, you know, Duke University to Nuneaton, there's a big difference.
And a lot of people listening to it might be like, oh, why is he coming back instead of living in Chicago? But again, when you live in it and you're having to make those decisions, you have to do what's best for you. And I always think when you look back at your career, at however it pans out at that time, that was the right decision. And
did you find that tough though? Did you find coming away? Because I know that obviously we had Ben on a few weeks ago, and I used to say to him, did you find that tough coming from League One, playing in front of X amount of thousand, to Harrogate Town in the Conference North, and from your position, coming from Chicago Fire, flying out to places to Nuneaton Town, Tamworth Town?
Yeah, I did, Joe. It was to go back to playing part-time football, picking up a little bit of money. Got a job at the time and was working full time, sort of playing part time at Nuneaton and Tamworth. And you know what, on the whole, I enjoyed my times there. Made some good friends, but I think sort of had a season at Nuneaton, then was at Tamworth for a few years. And during my time at Tamworth, I kind of thought, you know what, is this going to be me? And you
accepted it.
To an extent, yeah. I think you speak to a lot of people and they're like, right, football's my life, football's this, football's that, I always give 100%, and like, you can't. I think it's false. Like, life isn't football. There's so much more that you can gain from other experiences that you miss out on. And yeah, the lads at the top level, there's a lot of them that are like, yeah, you have to make sacrifices. But for me, I always believed that I could play higher. I always had that sort of backing of myself, but from the sort of career I had so far, you're sort of waiting for that opportunity to come along. And that's, like we spoke before, the things that are out of your control, because no matter how good you are, football's a game of opinions, and someone needs to take a chance on you. You need someone to go, you know what, that's the guy I want.
And the league can almost absorb you. You see it so many times where good young lads come on loan from Football League clubs to Conference North, and they can just go, and all of a sudden it just takes you in.
Well, you think in a Conference North dressing room, a part-time dressing room, lads are all motivated by different things. Everyone plays football for different reasons at that level. It might be for a few extra quid, it might be for fitness, it might be because they love the game, it might be to get out of the house, do you know what I mean? Whereas when you're in full-time football, everyone's motivated by the same thing. And then I found that I had a few years at Tamworth and wasn't really enjoying my job, and I'd started my own coaching business, so I had kind of quite a lot on. And I spoke to Harrogate Town, where I met you, and when they were going full time in the Conference North, and the project seemed really good. Do you know what I mean? A project that I wanted to be a part of, and those 4 years with Harrogate Town were fantastic for me. I played pretty much every game across 4 years. We had 2 promotions together and
met friends for life.
Met friends for life, and I think what was so special about what we built there, a lot of us signed at the same time. I think you were there the year before, but we had that same core group that went Conference North, Conference into League Two, and to do that with some of your best mates was incredible. And what we did as the staff, the players, everyone involved with Harrogate Town over those 4 years is nothing short of incredible. To take a club like that from the Conference North to the Football League, and those 4 years were.
So for the Harrogate fans that will probably watch this and tune in and probably want to hear, Belly's side of things, again, not to get too deep into, the politics around things, but from somebody looking outside in, Conference North goalkeeper at year, one of the best players in the conference, gone up into League Two, had, from my personal opinion, a good year, to then kind of, all of a sudden, it just, I had a phone call with you myself. Alright, it looks like I'm leaving Harrogate, and I think out of everyone in that squad list at that time, if I was to get a phone call and say you was leaving, it wasn't you. To get that phone call, I was shocked. So how did that affect you?
I think, like I've just alluded to, the 4 years, 96% of it was fantastic. It was a fantastic time, friends for life, really good relationships. But at the end of those, it's football. At the end of those 4 years, I remember
sort of opinion, like you just said.
Yeah, and the manager, staff, people who are in those positions, they have to do what's best for the football club, and it was their opinion that the football club wanted to move on without James Belshaw, and I had 2 years left on my contract, and it was amicable at the time. I guess it was a shock, don't get me wrong. I could kind of sense it was coming, and I'd signed with an agency just before it had all kind of came to a head, and I remember the gaffer having contact with who turned out to be my agent, saying that he was looking for another goalkeeper, and I remember sitting down with the gaffer and just said, look, this is the direction we want to go in, you're free to sort of speak to other clubs. And I'm not gonna lie, it's gutting, it's hard to hear,
especially from your point of view, for again the people that know the ins and outs of every day around the place. Massive character in that dressing room, big part of the last 4 years. You loved it there. You know that. Yeah, I think we can speak, especially on that car school that we had. You loved your time there. It must have been hard to kind of get into your head that wasn't going to be your everyday life.
It was, Joe.
Because change is hard.
Yeah, change is hard, and change is hard to accept. We as human beings, we like what we're used to, where we're comfortable, and yeah, like I was leaving sort of friends for life, really. But I remember at the start of that summer, it was kind of okay. Harrogate don't want me. Like you said, I'd been promoted out of Conference North, promoted out of the conference. I was goalkeeper of the year in both leagues. Just played a season in League Two. I thought, right, I'll have plenty of offers. I thought, whether it's a little bit of arrogance or what, you kind of think, okay, there'll be clubs out there that want me. And speaking to the agency I'd signed with, who have been fantastic with me, they said, look, got so and so, there's a few clubs interested, and it was just like, yeah, there's interest, but there's nothing concrete coming through. And I think what kind of hurt me, Joe, was I had 2 years left on my contract, so people automatically think there's something wrong with him. Like, why Harrogate Town getting rid of James Belshaw when he's got 2 years left on his contract? He's been number one there for 4 years, and had nothing, and had a really sort of tough summer. I went away with my missus, and we sort of chatted it through, and was really down, felt really sort of not wanted, felt lonely, felt lost, like. And it was probably like, one of the lowest points I've been at mentally, and you just waiting for something to happen, and nothing did.
So for me to understand that then, so you're in this position, you probably sat at home, dwelling on a lot of things. I've been in that position before where you expect 7 offers at the end of the night, they don't come. You expect them by the end of the week, they don't come. How did you react to that? Did you give in, feel sorry for yourself, work even harder? Because I know everyone will have their own story, and there'll be people that go, I'd had enough, I was done with that. Or
I think it went in cycles, really. For anyone who could sit there and say, just brush it off, you're not human, you're open to emotions, we're emotional people. But it went in cycles. I went through cycles of not feeling good enough, went through like anger, frustration, then went through like cycles of, okay, this chance for opportunity, chance to progress, new beginnings and stuff. But as a footballer, when you sat there waiting for your phone to ring, and now I was in a fortunate position that I had 2 years guaranteed anyway. So lads who are out of contract know they're not going to get paid after the 1st of July. It's very daunting. And I ended up with nothing. There was a couple of things that were close but didn't get done, and then went back for pre-season with Harrogate. I remember turning up on the first day, and I'd sort of said my goodbyes to the lads, because I thought that was going to be it. Turned up, and I remember being given a sheet of paper, with all your details on that you signed. So
like a waiver,
name, address and everything, and at the top it said James Belshaw, number 21. I remember all the staff were in the room and no one was really kind of looking me in the eye. It was just like, here's this piece of paper, and just sort of went, yeah, that's fine. And you remember at the training ground there's 2 changing rooms, so squad numbers 1 to 12 were in one side, and then squad numbers above that were in the other side. So walked in, gone sort of the other way, and kit number 21 there, and they signed a new keeper, had all the number 1 stuff on, and they were just had a few conversations and
hit home a little bit.
Yeah. I think that was, you put on a brave face, but it was tough. Do you know what I mean? And I had 2 days of pre-season there, and then had a few chats with the staff, and then their intentions were still to move forward with this other keeper, which, like I said, is their prerogative. It's absolutely fine. I remember going home, and on that, it was a Thursday, Friday, we went back in, and on that Friday just broke down. Went and said to my missus, I can't do this anymore. I remember being sat in the kitchen with her, just like, I can't go back. So I had a chat with a few people, and they just said, look, you need to stay fit, you need to keep yourself sharp, something's going to come up. And as a footballer, and thinking, well, for the last 3 or 4 months it's not come up. And I guess as a goalkeeper, you kind of, if you're a striker or you're a winger or a midfielder, if clubs have got 3 or 4 of them, they might be like, okay, well, we'll take him on anyway. Whereas with a keeper,
2 spots,
you either need one or you don't. So I'm waiting, and then went away. Harrogate had a pre-season camp at Carden Park, and I went there for the first day. Got back and had a missed call from my agent, and was like, oh, okay, like, and he said, Bristol Rovers want to take you. And I sort of said to my missus over the summer, like, right, it'd be great, I can get somewhere closer to home, and Bristol Rovers isn't close to home. And I rang my missus, and she'd been brilliant, like, really supportive, just went, go and do it, just go, I've seen how you are. So I left the training camp, went to Bristol Rovers, and
rest is history, I guess.
Rest is history, yeah. Well, to be fair, I went down on a 2-week trial, a trial period, and went down, met the staff, met the goalkeeper coach, and with all due respect to Harrogate Town, I mean, it's the nicest possible way to go to a club like Bristol Rovers, which historically a big football club, great training facilities. You kind of like, okay, like, this is, you're into something here,
So you went and did really well on the trial, got signed. Second choice, not first choice? Yeah,
so went in as the sort of, the script was you're coming in as second choice. Got offered a deal there, a 2-year deal. But they said, look, come in as second choice. And you know, I've always, again, I don't mean this in an arrogant way, but I've always been a number 1. I have played obviously a lot lower, but I've always been kind of a number 1. So that role was kind of new to me. They had a Finnish international goalkeeper as the number 1, and that was the remit, was coming as a number 2, and I really sort of bought into that. I bought into the club, bought into the city, kind of thought, okay, this is going to be me, wait for my chance, I'll get chances. Remember speaking to, like, Mrs. was like, well, I'll play cup games, I'll play this, and when he goes on international breaks, I'll get games here and there, and just thought, to be honest, at that point I was just buzzing to get out. It was kind of
a bit of release,
new release of life. And then a couple of games into the season, unfortunately the keeper got injured, and fortunately for me, I got an opportunity, and
one door closes, another one open.
And that's the sort of the mentality of being a goalkeeper. It's hard. You train every day, together you become really close, but only one of you can play. And whilst you support the person in the jersey, you want to be that person in the jersey, as does the other guy.
So as we just said there, then, you know, the rest is kind of history, because for the lads that and women out there that follow football down to League 2 level, straight promotion with them, you know, on the final day, quite historic moment. Into League 1, still retain the number 1. I think if anyone follows Twitter or watches interviews, Joey Barton's quite fond of you. The lads are quite fond of you. I think the club is. I think you're Mr. Bristol Rovers at the minute, aren't you? So everything's kind of gone full circle for you, from the tough time that you had probably, you know, 24 months ago to where you are now. You wouldn't believe it, but you are. Credit to yourself that you've come in and gone and worked as hard and not give up. But where's the future hold for you? What do you think? Are you, like you just said there, are you happy? There's still more from you? You're 32 now, so
I think
Father Time's catching up, but there's still got to be some aspirations in there for you to go even higher.
Yeah, as a keeper, you're fortunate enough that you can go on a little bit longer.
So, doing really well. Had a great career today. 32.
Yeah, 32. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Father Time's catching up on you a little bit. But you surely must have aspirations of playing high. I think for people that have watched games on the TV, you know, I'm a Chef Wednesday fan, so I watched that one, and it was hard to see you keeping the ball out the net, and everyone's kind of waxing lyrical about you on the TV. So I've got no doubt that you could play higher. You've probably got the same confidence because I know you as a person. But what's the plan for you in the future?
Yeah, I think ultimately I want to take Bristol Rovers as far as I can. I love playing for the club. And what the last kind of 5 years has shown me, I've had 3 promotions in 5 years. I think 2018 I was playing Conference North, and 2022 you're in League One. So opportunities will come, and for me, yeah, there's no reason why I can't play higher, and I want to play as high as I can for as long as I can, and as long as I'm enjoying it, that's all that matters.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. So, just a little questions before we finish, just for the public to kind of summarise on. So, career high, what would you say you've been your best moment in football?
The most elation I felt was the 7-0 promotion on the last day of the season, because I mean, no one does that.
No.
You don't go and win 7-0 and get on the last day of the season and get promoted on goals scored. I mean, that was, I think, just the sheer kind of.
How many thousand fans were in the ground at that time?
It was full. I think there was 10,000-11,000, and you
pitch invasions.
Two pitch invasions. You held aloft on fans' shoulders, and you really see kind of the size of the club at that point. And what we did that season was special, and it's hard to kind of, playing at Wembley is any young lad's dream, and the promotion with Harrogate at Wembley is up there as well to get into the Football League. And at that point, I don't think there was many of us that had played in the Football League. And
like you said earlier in the podcast, that people don't need to underestimate how big that was. You know, for a club like Harrogate, when we both joined there, for what it has to what it has now, they have really done remarkable.
No, the club is, and it's credit to everyone involved at the club that's taken the club that far. But for Harrogate Town to go to Wembley and beat Notts County in the playoff final,
one of the biggest clubs in English football.
Yeah, the oldest club in English football, to go and to do that, to take Harrogate Town into the Football League, and to do it with your best mates. And I said this to someone the other day, I think what made that special was there's no fans. It's COVID year, no fans in the stadium, but we all got to celebrate together, if that makes sense. Like,
and even the evening and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's very intimate. Like,
Harrogate's a very family-run club, and it was kind of that night just seeing, you know, the chairman, his wife, your partner there, everyone's family there, just being around and enjoying it at the same time.
It was, and I remember like being on the pitch at that time, and you can just run to everyone. Whereas with the Rovers promotion, like, you can't really see everyone. There's that many people on the pitch. You're like, oh, where's everyone? You're on someone's shoulders. So that moment with, I
don't think I'd have minded crowd surfing.
No, don't get me wrong. It was brilliant, but what made the Harrogate one kind of special was because we'd all been so close. We'd all come through together. We'd all built that club together to celebrate them together, like staff, players, and then, like you said, we had all partners, wives, mums, dads after the game. Yeah, that's up there as well.
Definitely. And then to flip that on the head again, quick summary of career low.
Yeah, I think like we alluded to in this chat, the way that it ended at Harrogate. Like I said, the 4 years there were fantastic. Loved the club, everything about it. I think the way that ended, whilst at the time felt like a career low, it has then led to these career highs and the opportunities I've had with Bristol Rovers. So can't really look back and regret. But at the time, how I felt mentally and sort of as far as tough times go, yeah, that was the lowest.
And then, would you do it all again? If you got the chance to do the same career path, the same things, do it again?
Yeah, 100%. Like, the game's given me so much. It's taught me so many lessons. It's taught me so many life lessons. I've had to grow up very quickly, and my sort of stories, again, like I said, everyone has a different story, but my sort of story of working through the lower leagues, getting your education behind you and kind of going through it that way, yeah, it's a different pathway to everyone, but no, I wouldn't change it for the world.
And an advocate for American football, would you say to people to go out there and have a chance?
Absolutely, the standard of football out there is fantastic. You're training every day as a professional, you're getting your education behind you, and I think for a lot of young lads coming through the academy system now, we know how ruthless it is, we know how few and far between opportunities in professional football are. Shoot for the stars, pursue your dreams in football. I'm a big advocate for that, but I would also say to have your educational hat on, to kind of not put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak. To kind of, education is very important, not just for job prospects but for life prospects. So for any youngster who's in the academy system, go and chase your dreams, but do it with sort of a sense of realism with that education side as well.
No, brilliant. Well, thank you very much, mate. It's been great to reconnect and have you on.
No, I've loved it. Thanks for having me on.
Top man. So, guys, episode 3 it'll be going live. If you can like and subscribe, and if you've enjoyed it, that's brilliant. I also want to say a shout out to Mark Turner and the media management group for letting us use their fantastic facilities and being involved with the Jail Resilience Company and backing it all the way. So thank you very much, guys. Hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you.